Good evening, everyone, to the launch of the Global Leaders Council for Reproductive Health. This is a wonderful group of leaders we've assembled today, and indeed everyone in this room is a champion for this very critical issue, so we're so pleased you could join us tonight. We find ourselves surrounded by, I certainly do, a number of my personal heroes who are here with us tonight, and I really want to thank them for all that they've done. But I do want to recognize that the world is in a very different place right now than it was 30 years ago when I was growing up as a young woman. I certainly see that in my daughter, who's 17 now. Reproductive health has become marginalized and radicalized. It's an issue we're often afraid to talk about it in certain circumstances, yet all of us know that every discussion that's going on here in New York this week around all the other MDGs, that reproductive health is absolutely central to any other achievements in any other area, be it economic development, poverty alleviation, education, health. Reproductive health is a central piece of that discussion. So the inspiration for the Global Leaders Council came largely from Mary Robinson and Musembi Kanyaro, and others who saw that we needed leadership, strong, high-level, from the heart, strong-minded leadership who could speak out about the centrality of reproductive health to development and to reclaim the debate. Beginning today, the members of the Global Leaders Council will embark on an intensive set of communications activities in their own worlds and together as a council to significantly increase financial and technical investments in reproductive health. As we launch the council here tonight, if each of us could keep in our mind's eye and really bring to mind and bring to heart an image of a woman, a family, a community, one of the 200 million of people the world over who want access to reproductive health services but are unable to get that. Please keep that in your mind as you join us in our call for resolve, universal access to reproductive health by 2015, and as you join with us in the efforts of this remarkable council over the next several years. It's my very great pleasure to introduce one of my favorite people in the world, Mary Robinson, the former United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, the former President of Ireland. Mary is a dear friend, and I think many of you would agree with me when I say she's a force of nature. She leads with both head and heart, and whose commitment to some of the most pressing issues of our time has made a profound, profound impact on so many people's lives. It's been a great honor and joy, Mary, to work with you, and we're very, very grateful that you've agreed to serve as the chair of the Global Leaders Council for Reproductive Health. So, Mary, if you'd like to come up, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Peggy. Thank you very much. Thank you. As Peggy has made clear, I think this is a special occasion. We're building on a lot of courage, a lot of resolve, a lot of determination of many of you and hundreds of thousands, even millions of others who know that we have to put access to reproductive health at the centre of development. And yet, in various ways and over the years, there have been so many barriers, so many ways in which people get attacked or stigmatized or judged because they take a stand on reproductive health. When I was discussing this idea with Musembi Kanyaro, who'll be speaking at the end, and others, we felt we need to honour and build on all the work that has been done by somehow elevating to a level where people will be interested to know that there's a broad-based different kind of leadership, some of it political, some of it not political, that has identified this as being an enormously important area. So the suggestion was that I might contact some people and see what the response was. I don't think I'm really surprised, but I was enormously encouraged. The response from each was yes, absolutely. This is something that needs to be talked about, talked up, talked proudly about, talked about in the sense of an urgency of reclaiming this whole world in a straightforward way that is so important for reproductive health, family planning, early child marriage, all the other issues. It coincides with the fact that 3 of the Global Council are also in a situation where we have to admit we're designated elders. Crew Brundtland and myself here, and I don't think that our colleague Fernando Enrique Cardozo can be here. I haven't seen him yet. He was hoping that he could come. But we are also very concerned about the child marriage issue and will be issuing statements about that. That's just one piece, and there are many other pieces. Coming into the room, it was wonderful to see those who have been working so long and so honourably and so courageously in this area. We offer ourselves as a council that wants to be informed by the work you've been doing, wants to touch the networks that are working so hard at country level, and wants to be inspirational. And we have a technical group led by Kavita Ramdas, who will be joining us later today, and she's going to be giving the kind of briefing which will be so important. Each of the council members who will come up will speak briefly and tell a little bit their personal story. I could actually talk for quite a long time about the first political battle I fought at the age of 25 as a member of the Irish Senate, when in my innocence I decided to table legislation legalising family planning, because it was very logical. After all, married women couldn't use the contraceptive pill unless they had cycle regulation problems. And it must have been the Irish weather, but there were an awful lot of married women with cycle regulation problems. And it wasn't against the law to use a condom, but it was against the criminal law to either buy or sell a condom. So figure, you know. So it was easy to draft a law. What I didn't fully understand was the whole cultural context in Catholic Ireland in 1970. I was denounced from pulpits. It was a very tough time. I felt very isolated and kind of almost, it was the one time, I think, where I really felt, can I go on with this? And I had to steady myself and say, no, it is very important. It was very important then. It's very important now. It's a battle that we must continue to fight and must continue to move forward on. The Global Leadership Council, the Global Leaders Council for Reproductive Health, is enormously supported by the foundation, and I'm going to call up Carol Larson now to say a few words, the David and Lucille Packard Foundation. The Packard Foundation, together with the Hewlett Foundation and others, have been also very supportive of many groups working in this area. So, Carol, would you like to come up and say a few words before we open it to our council members?
Thank you, Mary. I think Mary embodies what this council is about. People who throughout their lives have combined leadership, and both at an individual and a country level, with their passion and what they really believe in. I thank Hewlett and UNF Foundation for joining us in this initiative. And as you know, the Packard Foundation, Dave Packard, started caring about the issue of reproductive health and access to family planning when he started his foundation in 1964. He was Assistant Secretary of Defense eventually. He was a captain of industry. But he saw the central importance of family planning, universal access to reproductive health services as so much a part of development, environment, peace and security, quality of life for girls, women, their families, and communities. It's about head and heart. It's about vision at the policy level, but also knowing the really hard work on the ground level. And each of the people in this room have stood for that. And we're going to hear from the leaders who have embodied that throughout their careers. And final thing is that Dave wrote in HP Way and in building his company about the belief in individual leadership, that an individual does make a difference, an individual as they go into each of the areas of their life and talk, but also then what they stand for collectively. And we're hoping that this group, with the support of all of you who have worked so hard on this issue for a long time, will remind us all that it is central to girls, women, their families, and communities, and it's not an issue off to the side. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much, Carol. Thank you for the commitment, both of your foundation and clearly your own personal, very strong commitment. I'm now going to have the pleasure of calling up the council leaders and draping them with a lovely Indian scarf and then inviting them to say a few words. They are in alphabetical order except I got one request, and since it was a request by somebody who's very busy in her life, Helen Clark just wondered if she could slip in ahead of the field because she has to go to another meeting. Helen Clark, as you know, is UNDP Administrator, Chair of the UNDP Development Group, and of course former Prime Minister of New Zealand. So, Helen, you get to be first because you asked. And that is alphabetical.
Well, thank you, Mary, for asking me to slip in before I slip out, as it were. But thank you also for convening this remarkable group of women to stand up and advocate for access to adequate sexual and reproductive health services, which I personally believe is an absolutely basic human right, and I know it's one that so many do not enjoy. I know how critical it is for promoting gender equality and empowerment. I know how critical it is for achieving the MDGs. I know how critical it is for development progress overall. I personally strongly believe that when women do have control over their health and sexuality, they're better able to plan their futures, their pregnancy, their childbirth, better protect themselves from HIV, AIDS and sexually transmitted infections generally, and lift their status in their family, their community and their country. I know that when women's basic needs for family planning go unmet, their chances of finishing their education, of being in productive work, of breaking out of poverty are really sharply reduced. So I guess those of us who've had the fortune to be able to access those services have insights into what it would mean not to have been able to have that chance. And that's why we stand up to support your effort and really advocate for the unmet sexual and reproductive health needs out there to be met and make it a basic human right. Thank you very much.
Well done, Helen. I think you covered the bases very well on that and very efficiently. The next, now going back to proper alphabetical order, it is Vice Admiral Regina Benjamin. Vice Admiral? Yes, please. Good. Yes. Wow. I've never put a scarf on a uniform before. May I do this?
Thank you.
Not at all.
Thank you.
Good.
Well, I'm not sure if it's appropriate, but since I'm the Vice Admiral, I command 6,700 officers, I now declare it okay.
That's power.
You know, thank you so much. I really am honored to be here and to be a part of the inaugural council member. My job as Surgeon General is to communicate effectively and hopefully articulate to the American public the issues around health and health care in a way that they can understand it. And so I have a selfish reason for being on this council because I hope that you will help me do that job. And my job as Surgeon General is based on prevention. And that's what I've chosen as my platform for the year, and everything to do with prevention. So this fits right in. I have a personal reason. I know that HIV/AIDS is very important to me because my brother died of HIV. And as we know, it's the fastest growing area right now is in women and girls. And so this fits right in. We know that a lack of access to sexual reproductive services and the information that's available is the leading cause of morbidity and mortality in the world, actually. But in the United States, the reduction in teen and unintended pregnancy is one of the key initiatives that we're pursuing at the Department of Health and Human Services. And health reform is one way that we're obviously trying to move that step forward. But at HHS, we continue to invest in the programs that we have and try to improve the coordination among them, particularly our domestic planning program that we call Title 10, our community health centers, our Healthy Start program, our maternal and child health block grants, the Centers for Disease Control, STD prevention, and treatment programs, particularly for HIV and AIDS. And as we know, in the international arena, these issues, although may differ in magnitude, they're very similar around the world. We really need a better access to prenatal and early antenatal visits. We really need to increase the number of skilled healthcare workers, increase the number of cervical cancer screening and prevention, and increase access to STD and AIDS screening throughout the world. So I'm very pleased to be a part of this and look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, and thank you for that really personal motivation that also is part of your commitment as a member of the Global Leaders Council for Reproductive Health. The next person on my alphabetical list is somebody I've admired for a very long time, who knows more about this subject than perhaps any of us in this room. Gro Harlem Brundtland, former Prime Minister of Norway, but also Director General of the World Health Organization, a doctor and a dear friend. Gro.
No. You don't know what she whispers here. You're the leader, you know. So Mary takes on the responsibility, believing that some of us will do the job. Of course, we will do it together. Thank you, all of you, for coming here and for taking the initiative, indeed, for this council. When you look back now, it's a dramatic thing, you know, hearing Mary, what she had to experience as a young politician. But it also is a positive message that, in fact, this would be unthinkable in Europe today, what you experienced. So more than a generation has passed, but change has happened. So obviously, where a parallel story would very easily happen today, many places in the world, the optimism that this can be changed needs to be there. Because I think there has become a lot of pessimism into the picture compared to what we thought before, during Cairo, before and at Beijing at the Women's Conference. We thought that we had agreed on a number of key principles in this area, and that the world was going to do this together as part of our obligations. And then we've had setbacks, many years, not all over, but in many places, setbacks, quiet, other issues coming up. And that's why it's probably time now, 2010, to realize that we have lost out compared to our ambition, our thoughts, our beliefs, if we go 10 years or 15 years back. And health is key to the economy. This was a thing that, as Director General, I made as an issue for me and us in the WHO to convince the world about. Women are key to health. Women are key in every society. We know it. They are key to prosperous societies. So it's not just the right, the roles of women, the rights that we all have to be able to have equal opportunities in life, and where reproductive health is a crucial issue. But it is generally the fact that it pays to invest in the people, and half of the people are women. And it is forgotten too many places. So let's do the job and raise the issue where it belongs. Thank you.
Hey, you took my paper. Here, come back here.
Is that your paper or mine?
No, you took another one. Hang on, my list. I'm lost.
This one?
You grabbed everything. No, but genuinely, thank you, Gro. That was really reflecting the enormous experience and the leadership that you've been giving. From the beginning, we decided that this had to be a council of women and men, that this is an issue that is of importance to everyone, and we need very good men champions. And I'm delighted to invite Ambassador Jan Eliasson, former President of the United Nations General Assembly, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Sweden, and you can't believe how enthusiastically he said yes. It was just an incredible yes.
I'm proud to be the first man on the podium. We need gender balance in this struggle, don't we? It's first of all wonderful to work with Mary, who is a great friend and a great champion of human rights and a role model for many of us. But it's also for me personally something I have believed in a long time. I have two main reasons for joining you in this work. One is the realities that I've seen as humanitarian coordinator and mediator in several conflicts in Africa. I've been out there most recently in Darfur. And what I've seen has strengthened my conviction more than ever. I've seen the young girls, 13 years old, being pregnant and not wanting to be pregnant. I've seen the further south, particularly in Africa, the married women who get HIV infected. And I've met raped women who are desperate about giving birth to a child from a soldier from the other groups. So these realities have influenced me very, very strongly. But I was also president of the General Assembly, and I'm very glad to meet some of you who were on the barricades with me during that period. And I remember working with Kofi Annan, where we tried to sort of find a formula of how everything sticks together. And we wrote this formula: there is no peace without development, but there is no development without peace, and none of the above without respect of human rights. And the same thing goes for reproductive health. It's so obvious. It relates to development, it relates to security, it relates to human dignity, to rights. So this conviction is very strong in me, and I think we need then to move on. And the second reason is exactly what you touched upon, Peggy, earlier, and that is we have to normalize this debate. I don't see why this taboo or this politicized atmosphere surrounds this issue. It's very much down to earth. It's very much realities. And we really need to bring this down to some very basic concepts. And the basic concepts are two. That we must put the human being, in this case the woman, and often the child, in the center. And the second one is to put the problem in the center. If you put the human being in the center and the problem in the center, and then mobilize to normalize this debate and take away this taboo character that is there, then we have made progress. So if the leaders can contribute to this development, but I know there are hundreds of other efforts, and you in this room, I know, have done so much, and we must build on what you have been doing, and we must not lose ground. We must gain ground, but we do it, I think, by seeing the holistic, comprehensive character of the issue and taking away this strangely politicized taboo character of the issue. So this is the reason I was driven to accept. But you know, you can never say no to Mary anyway.
Thank you very much, Jan, and actually thank you for that strong sense of normalizing this issue and dealing with it in a very practical and thing. Now, I'm going to be slightly challenged by inviting the former Deputy President of South Africa to come forward because she hasn't got an Irish name. Fumzile Mlambo Nkuba. Is she here? Oh, yes, you are. Here. I couldn't see you in the dark. We have met before, but I've always called you Fumzile and hoped I got away with it. I never said your full name before. May I give you a scarf? Yeah, please. But you're most welcome. Thank you very much indeed. Great. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mary, and good evening to everybody. Thank you for your hard work, as usual. We've come to expect that from you, just as much as we've come to expect the same from the Hewlett-Packard family and the wonderful work that you do. To my friend Musimbi, who has continued to educate me on a number of issues. As a former politician, it's wonderful to come back a full cycle to the NGO sector and the world of education, which is where it all began for me. And as far as this issue is concerned, my biggest and passion is access to information for young people. Because given that this is a taboo, many young people don't get accurate information. They don't always know where to go to, where they could speak openly without fear. Already because the issue is politicized and it's a taboo, it is just difficult for them to know where to go and to be frank and open about their needs. So we lose an opportunity to prevent disasters by talking to young people at a very early age. In some of the work that I'm doing now, which is online work, engaging with young people all over the country in South Africa, especially now that so many of them have got mobile phones, I'm amazed of the secrets I get to hear and the issues that concern young people. And because they are speaking to someone on the other end of the line, they don't even know who they are talking to. The many tutors that we work with, we all afterwards compare notes about what did you learn today about the kids. And we're amazed at just the hunger for information. So I hope that as being part of this exciting council, there's going to be opportunity for us to work together to increase access to reliable information on the terms of the kids, because they like the new media, and we have to package information and produce it in the different languages so that it is accessible to them wherever they may be. I look forward also to learning even more about the issue, because so many people have done so much, and sometimes there just isn't always enough opportunity for us to share. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for actually linking strongly with education. And more than that, we were actually talking earlier in the green room, or whatever you call it, about Twitter in Africa and Facebook, etc. So you'll be the one who'll help us to get the message out in a modern social networking way. So that's excellent. And now, where am I on my list? Oh, did I forget a president? I did. I did. I did. I skipped two. Do I get down on my knees? Please, Honourable Madam President, please come up. Please come up and receive this scarf, which I give you with enormous pleasure, and give us your words.
So, it's really so that true what Jan Eliasson said, and it's difficult to say to Mary no, and it's so easy to forgive. But all in all, I'm like all the others, we are very happy. I'm very happy to be here. And I have a written speech, but all what you have now said beforehand so encouraged me to speak directly in a different way. Because what I would like to say is that it's human rights are all how we respect a human being. And we, in a way, we are always underlying the fact, the ownership of these rights of every human being. And it's, in a way, it's very true that the reproduction rights are sensitive. Even so sensitive that we use such kind of the terrible word, because we cannot speak about the birth, we cannot speak about all what's going into that. But what is quite awkward is that when it's concerning such kind of the very important issue, so we don't dare to speak. And how often people don't respect these basic human rights, what is the ownership of your own body. That's why let's be brave and let's be very pragmatic. These ladies and gentlemen, these dear friends, men and women, you all have done so much. And only the time limit stops me to tell broadly what we all have experienced. I'm already 66 years old. When I was quite much younger, in 1960s, 1970s, even in Finland, in the northern part of Europe, these issues were also much more taboo. We are not too talkative, more generally taken either. But in these subjects, the mother said very often that you will know more later on. And so we had quite normal European legislation in those days, but it was not enough. And I remember how we wanted to bring together the reality and the theory. And I was, as a young lawyer, we were collecting all these cases what we had concerning the illegal abortions. So we wanted the women to tell what happened for them before and afterwards. And then we made a book. And then we started to campaign. We succeeded. We got much better legislation, and all those, how could I say, difficulties what they thought will come with the more liberal legislation, more family planning, were just in vain. We have now higher birth rate. We have now much more children and happy births what we used to have earlier. We have healthier women, we have healthier children, we have healthier families. And that's why I always want to encourage you that things can change. I don't know whether the 30 years is or 40 years is a long time, but it seemed to be very, very far away. But all that what Jan and the others have told about today's world and all these things, how shamefully people can behave concerning the others' human rights. So let's be strong together and let's enjoy this company. Because as we have noticed, being together can also make an empowerment for every one of us. And I feel very empowered with that scarf. Let's be together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam President, for being gracious about being forgotten, first of all, and but more so for not sticking to your script, which I'm sure would have been a good covering of the main points. But I think more precious to us was your own personal story and your own personal commitment. And also I loved, let's enjoy this campaign. Let's really, and let all the organisations that have been working so hard look to us as being there for you and wanting to be supportive in that way. The next person that I'm going to call is another great authority in this area, Joy Fumafi, former Minister in Botswana, former Vice President of Human Development of the World Bank, somebody who served with me for a number of years on Gavi, both from World Health Organization and from World Bank. And I know your commitment, Joy, so I'm looking forward to giving you, this is the right to speak, the scarf. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. I am really excited about this, not just because we live at a time when we have exactly 5 years left for partner countries to attain the MDGs. But we have got 5 years left, yet we have all the tools available. And you are putting together this team of leaders who will have access to these tools. I think that is what makes it absolutely exciting. We know that we have lost 8 years, that despite ICPD 10, which came before the MDG summit, we still managed for 8 years to exclude reproductive health from the MDG debate, but also from the development planning and the poverty reduction strategy plans that we're having in countries. Now, we are living at a time when it is not just an opportunity for us to engage every woman, because we realize that we have made a terrible, inexcusable mistake. But it is also a time for us to learn from successes. I want to share with you my own country's experience. When I was born in a small village in Botswana, I don't mind sharing my age, but it was in the late 50s. When I was born, 40% of the other babies who were born with me that year died. But what is even more alarming, that 40% of the women also died. Sometimes it was the mother and the child, sometimes it was the mother alone. But as I speak to you now, the figures are quite different. So it is not only in Ireland where you can see change, but you can see change happening in Africa, and it can happen in our lifetime. And our responsibility is to appreciate that reproductive health is about life. You cannot have life without reproductive health. Reproductive health is about death. And so the choice that we have to make is whether we want to give our women and children life or death. It's as simple as that. That is the choice. We have to make up for lost time. And I think it would be remiss of me if I did not make a link between the critical reproductive health strategies, programs, and health services that we have to deliver, and a holistic, comprehensive approach that we must adopt. We must adopt a strategy, a policy, programs that have got a continuum of care and service delivery, that appreciate the research and the success stories of the last decade, that appreciate the demographic bonus, the economic benefits that Madam Brundtland talked about earlier. This is the demographic bonus, the substantial economic benefits that result from falling birth rates, that also result within a household from a woman having the ability to control her own body and to determine when she should have the child, when she's ready to have the child, when she should stop having children, when she cannot afford to have her children. A holistic approach that encompasses policies in other related areas, whether they be in education, water and sanitation, energy, telecommunications, transport, finance, and the overall commitment to health. I'm really delighted and I'm honored by this wonderful woman to be part of this group, because I believe you only get a chance once in your life to improve the quality of life on the planet. You can only do it when you are alive. So while we are alive, Mary, we will wear this blue scarf, we'll shout from the rooftops, and we'll get every woman to celebrate life and not to give, to die while she is giving life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much for that very strong voice, Joy. I now have to go back again because, in fact, we now have Maria Otero, who is here to come up. Maria? Ah, voilà, good, please. Sorry, the lights are quite strong. So great to see you. Thank you so much. Good. And, yeah, let me put the speaking scarf on you.
Of course.
There we are.
Otherwise, I can't talk. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. It's such an honor to be able to be part of this group and to be able to commit our time in our effort to improve reproductive health. All of you that are here have followed this issue. I myself have had the honor of working in family planning and in reproductive health going back to the 1970s. I think I was 14 at the time, but I worked with CEDPA, with the Center for Development of Population Activities, and that really took me to look at the issues that that we are trying to address, even going back to that time. And clearly, we have made progress. There is no question that we have, and that we have been able to advance. We've seen some numbers that have come up that show us a decrease in the maternal deaths. We see that all of this is translating into improvement.
but we still know that there's only 21% of women in developing countries who have access to modern contraceptives. 21%. And that's still something that really drives us. In all of what you have talked about, now that I am an Undersecretary of State for Democracy and Global Affairs, this issue of reproductive health hits me between the eyes every time I go to do anything. If I am in a refugee camp with Somalian refugees on the Kenyan border, what they want to talk to me about is reproductive health. Can it be made available to them? These are vulnerable populations that need that. For them, it's one way to become less vulnerable. If I am in a place where security is the issue, this also becomes an enormously important issue. In Pakistan, I have been working, even before the floods, with the Pakistanis to help them address the issue of water and manage water in a more effective way. But when the Pakistanis project that they will add by 2030 another 52 million people to the population, their efforts to address water and its scarcity becomes far more complex. It's an issue that fuels the spread of HIV. We all know that. And that's true for low and middle income countries. And it is really the leading cause of death for women in during their reproductive years. It's also an issue that's completely related to environment, which is another topic that I deal with. When I traveled recently to the Arctic Circle, and I recognized the degree to which that part of the world is being affected by climate change, I began to see that it's what you all already know, that women in all of our communities are going to be in the front lines of addressing these issues. So you can go from the Arctic Circle all the way to the tip of the continent where I was born, South America or Africa, and you will see that these are the problems that continue to prevail. And for me, linking reproductive health to all these other issues that I am working on is what has driven me to join this council and to be able to be here. We have 5 more years to meet our goals that we agreed to carry out in Cairo. What we're doing right now is really elevating the issue of women's health, of reproductive health, as many have said, really lifting it up, and this high-level representation on this council is one way of doing that. But I think we also need to be reminded that part of the work that we are doing is remembering that reproductive health is still going to be made available to women in villages, in small towns, in the countryside, by those women who may have not had a great deal of education. For example, the traditional birth attendants. And I just want to tell one small anecdote that my friends at SEDPA have heard. But at SEDPA, we trained women who were leaders in their countries. And in Kenya, one of the women that SEDPA provided training for was a woman who became a wonderful parliamentarian, Phoebe Asiyu. And she was a woman who fought for women in Kenya. And when I went to Kenya to train traditional birth attendants on issues related to delivering family planning services, we went to the Nyanza region with Phoebe, who wore her headpiece and just looked regal and very tall and wonderful. And we went up there with her, and everyone was so delighted. And here was a group of traditional birth attendants. They were older women. They were women, some of them with no teeth, some of them very slim, but these are the women that are delivering the services. And as I stood there with Phoebe, one woman who was very small and frail and elderly, maybe 2 teeth and just wrapped, she looked at Phoebe and she said, "I delivered you." She said, "I was there when your mother gave you birth." And this, for me, was a very touching moment, because it's really those women that are delivering the services and that we are trying to empower and that we are trying to to help do this work that is really driving us to do this. So for me, it's really an honor to be able to do that work and to be able to share it with everyone and to have an opportunity to thank Mary for doing this work. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Maria. It's good to have somebody in the State Department with your very strong views, vision, and also connecting the different contexts in which it comes up. I know you're very patient. This is quite a distinguished council, and the great thing is so many of them have made themselves available this evening. I'm delighted to say we now have another man, Fred Tsai, who will be known to many of you here, former president of the International Planned Parenthood Federation, former director of population of the World Bank, wonderful leader of Women Deliver, and goodness knows what else, Fred. Your scarf. Okay. You can't speak without this. So, great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary.
Yeah, okay.
You realized it took two to bring me up here.
Okay.
People have been talking about age. I won't give you my age, but I'm probably the oldest here. But let me start by saying, Mary, what an honor it is to be in such really, really high-level group. I admire your thinking, and I admire your ability to pull people together. And I'm really honored and privileged to be in this group. The first question that you people asked me was to say why I have been so involved and persistent in this field. My primary response is simple and it's basic. I care because it is simply the right and humane and human thing to do. I truly believe that when biology decided to be so sexist, that it saddled one half of mankind with the responsibility of replenishing the human race. It is being sexist, but it is putting onto the other half the responsibility to recognize the need for this and put in place the social, cultural, technological, and all the environmental support that is needed to carry out that responsibility safely and perhaps even pleasurably. And we as human beings have failed. And in thinking, this is what drives me. I happen to have also lived through some of the horrific things that have been discussed in this field. One of those many who lost their fathers when they were very small kids. I never spoke with my father. I was brought up largely because of this. I had to stay in the women's compound a lot longer than ordinary boys whose fathers were alive would be allowed. So I saw, even as a child, what was happening to women. Getting a little larger, going to the hospital, coming back with these bundles, sometimes bundles of joy, sometimes coming back with tears, sometimes not coming back at all. And you saw this in your own home, and you saw it in homes outside. Then, by the chance of good fortune, you get scholarships of various kinds, and you manage to go overseas in the 40s to learn to be a doctor. And in Britain in the 40s, not even the condom was available very readily. And you saw, as a student, what was happening because of the legal situation that was there. And you come home, and you have the privilege or responsibility of, again, doing fevers or doing pathology and doing postmortems. And you see the horrible things that come to the slab in people who didn't want, girls who didn't want to be pregnant, who were pregnant and could not face it and had gone to quacks. So it was in the 60s when I was called to help develop the family planning program in my country. I unhesitatingly joined in doing so. And as somebody has said, the feeling that these are tools that we can use for preventing all of these things seemed to take root for a little while, and then suddenly we lost out. And today, we are seeing the consequences of our losing out. When you see women dying in childbirth by the hundreds, not because the technologies for saving them are not available, Mary, but because the will, the support, the enthusiasm, the understanding that this is the humane thing to do, the human thing to do, is not there. When you work in nutrition and you see children who have been nurtured for 9 months by a human being shrivel into little bits of dried herring after about 1 year, and they die of malnutrition, you wish there was something that you could do. And it is because of all of these things, Mary, that I remain in these fields. And I kept telling my people when they ask me, how is it that you have lived so long and you continue still to advocate these things with such passion? I tell them, I think I'm afraid to die because I'm ashamed to face my being interrogated as to why I have failed in so many aspects of this life. But this group has given me courage. And in this group, I see that I can have, once again, my voice. People have been asking me, when are you going to write your book? Permit me not to advertise it, but permit me to say that it has just come out. And I have in this book stated that, to me, the success of African leadership in this decade should be judged, first and foremost, by the progress made in the lives of our girls and women. My credo is there should be no more unplanned pregnancies in Africa. There should be no more unsafe abortions in Africa. I am old, but I still have a voice. And to the extent that my little heart will keep ticking and supporting that voice, Mary, my voice and heart are with you. Thank you very much.
We have two more of the council members who are here, and then I'll just name those very few who haven't been able to join us. We have another former Prime Minister, Dame Jenny Shipley, former Prime Minister of New Zealand and Vice President currently of the Club of Madrid. Jenny.
Thank you, Mary. Mary, again, thank you for your leadership in this and so many other things. You have made a profound difference, not only to the world, but to many leaders who stand on your shoulders and seek to do other things in the future. I'm deeply honoured to have been be invited to be part of this council. Myself and Helen Clark come from a small country, but across the political spectrum in our lives, we've worked to improve the sexual health and reproductive health of women in New Zealand, and there's still work to do. But the thing that drew me to accept this invitation was really twofold. The first is that I hope that by women and men from across all of the continents of the world joining together in this Global Leaders Council, that we will create a shield that will allow this conversation to emerge again. Because it is just critical that we will not be silenced. It is just critical. Much has been said tonight about the rights of women, and I completely and utterly endorse that. But I also feel an urgency from an environment and climate point of view. I was born in 1952, and there were about 2 billion people on the planet. Today, as you know, there are 6.4, and the demographers project that probably if I'm lucky enough to live as long as Fred, then there may be about 9 billion people. And as Fred has said, every child that is born deserves to be a wanted child. And I think if the reproductive health strategy worldwide can seek to achieve that goal, we not only defend the rights of women and also ensure the rights of the next generation, but we will also have an impact on the issues of climate. For me, the carbon footprint is irrelevant if we are not courageous enough to talk about the human footprint. And I, for one, want to put the issue of population and reproductive health back in the room, even if it is the elephant. So again, I'm proud to be part of the group who I hope will help convene that conversation. The second thing that caught my imagination was the concept of not only sharing so children or young people learn and women are empowered by the learning, but also that we enable them through this knowledge to take control. Because in my experience, if people have information, they become enabled to take the choices that then allow them to control their lives. But I hope that we can also inspire a new generation that this isn't just a bunch of older folk talking to each other, but rather that we can convert our conversations in a meaningful way so the children on the streets of New York, but also children on the streets of any other city in any other continent, can feel that this conversation is about them. And when I read that the Council's aspiration was to use modern social media techniques and to see that applications for telephones and other things were designed so that this conversation is convened in a meaningful way, that people can safely have access to the information without perhaps being harassed for religious or cultural reasons, because so many people like this own a telephone. And for the first time, I think, in many generations, we have a channel to market which may not have been available. So my hope is not only the shield and the conversation, but that we find the social networks and those routes to market that will not only inspire, but perhaps meaningfully change the landscape. And this Council, if it in any way achieves that, it will have achieved a great thing. Finally, I want to acknowledge the shoulders on which we stand in terms of others in the room. I'm very aware that while each of us has played a small part in promoting reproductive health in our lives, there are some giants here who have battled along so often when it's not been either fashionable or conducive. Let's make this a sexy, dare I say it, but also highly fashionable conversation that can be had and that will bring meaningful change within the 5 years so the Millennium Goals can be achieved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenny, for those words, and also for reminding us, as a number of us have been very aware, that we are building on such long, courageous, determined, committed work. And we're there for you, as I was saying, and we're there to help you to make sure that this conversation is open and there's access, etc. And now, last but by no means least, another former president, the former president of Latvia, Vera Freiberger. Last but not least, you can speak for longer if you like.
Thank you, Mary. It truly is an honor to be part of such a distinguished group, and thank you all for such patience. I'm used to being at the end of the alphabet. I was always the last called out in school, so I shall try and be brief. You have been very patient. Reproduction is at the heart of our existence. We wouldn't be here without it, and the human race would have no future. But let's face it, so much of it rests in the hands and in the bodies of women. And I think the first thing about reproductive health is that it's something that concerns women particularly, but that they need the support of their men and the whole society about it. It's not just about people of reproductive age who are concerned. It's all those around them, their partners, their elders, and their youngers. All of them are concerned, and reproductive health is really about respect for the human being and the human body. If sometimes a woman's role has been sanctified as being that essentially that of the childbearing mother, too often it is done for hypocritical reasons. And the sanctity, supposedly, which I personally believe is there, becomes an excuse for preventing women from achieving the same aspirations or developing the same talents as their male counterparts. This sort of hypocrisy has been disappearing over the last century, and I have seen a lot of it diminish also in my own lifetime. I could tell you stories about how things concerned with reproductive health have truly changed for the better in my own lifetime. But all of us can share also stories about how much still needs to be done, how infant mortality, mother's mortality, all sorts of indicators, even my own country, Latvia, part of the European Union, should not be as high as they are. Cancers of the reproductive organs are one of the main causes of death in women. Childbirth and so on, of course, we've heard about it in passionate detail, and this is a primary cause of women's mortality. There's so much to be done, and I am glad and honored to be part of this group. I am particularly pleased to see you all here with such patience and stamina, standing up all this time. I wish you all that same stamina as you go out there in the world and continue doing the work that we all have to do together. Thank you.
I actually echo that it's wonderful that you're still here and listening to this incredible witness that the Global Leaders Council for Reproductive Health have been giving of why they want to be involved and why they want to be with you in opening up conversations centering the whole area of sexual reproductive health, knowing that this is absolutely vital, as we've been hearing. That's the end of those who are here. I'll just read the council members. I think you know the Honourable Joyce Banda, who's Vice President of Malawi, extremely committed to this. The Honourable Fernando Enrique Cardozo. When I asked him, he said, "Mary, I'm saying yes to nothing, but I'd say yes to this because it's so important." So I was really very, very touched by that. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, President of Liberia. Annie Lennox, singer-songwriter and humanitarian and founder of the Sing campaign. And I think that's it. There are 16 of us. And as you can imagine, I'm extremely honoured to have just brought this group together. In this group, there are no leaders of leaders. We're all part of a council. But we are very aware, and Jenny and a number of others mentioned this, that we come into a world, some of us have been doing a little bit of work in it, some more than others, but we know that there are champions in this room linked to networks that have worked so hard in this. I hope you feel encouraged. I liked the words, let's enjoy it, and even sexy, and, let's change this campaign around, reshape the narrative around reproductive health, and make it very central and crucial as it is. And now it gives me great pleasure to call upon Musimbi Kanyoro to close us out. Musimbi.
My first pleasant action is to give a scarf to Mary Robinson.
Thank you.
When I look into this crowd and see those among you that have come to help us celebrate this occasion, I have hope. I have hope because I know that you, like me, believe that girls should grow up before they get married, rather than get married and then grow up. I have hope because I know that you, like me, believe that those who have paved the way in creating strong paths towards achieving reproductive health for women and girls need all our support. And so I see leaders. I see leaders among all of you. And so, as a woman from Africa who knows very well what it means not to have those opportunities to have access to health and reproductive health, I know that I can ask you from deep down in my heart to leave this place and join the leaders that have so declared that they are going to lead, to hold them accountable and to hold ourselves accountable, each one of us. And so I want to use the words of the Akan people in Ghana as a blessing that sends us to go and do what we are called to do. We do not say goodbye, though we say, God go with you. We do not say au revoir, since we say, I am leaving to return. What we say is, walk rightly, tread softly like a chameleon on the newly created earth, and may you find firm ground under your feet. Walk confidently, walk well, and may love create a wide path before you. May the rain fall softly on you. When the heat comes, as it often does in reproductive health and reproductive rights, may you find the moon at night to cheer your path. Walk gracefully, walk well, and may prosperity go behind you. When we say walk well, we say, God go with you. And that's all we wish for you. Thank you.
I just want to take this moment to thank everyone for joining us and to acknowledge a few people. Slate, the remarkable online magazine, is our media partner on this event. I'd like to acknowledge their hard work. I'd like to acknowledge we have a number of ambassadors in the room, and we aren't able to call each of you by name, but we very much appreciate you coming to be with us this evening. I'd like to acknowledge the United Nations Foundation. Tim Worth, I believe you're still with us. And of course, the mighty Thoraya Obaid, Executive Director of UNFPA, who I believe is still with us. And there's so many heroes and heroines in this room. I really just want to thank you very much for your support and for the support we're going to look to you for as we go ahead. I would be remiss without calling your attention to a dream team of wonderful co-workers who have put this whole beautiful event together. Gwen Hopkins of Aspen Global Health and Development, Roseanne Weissman, Stephanie Weber, Sarah Lindsay, and others who are in the room. And also to acknowledge Spitfire Strategies, our wonderful communications partner in this effort, who is always encouraging us to tell the truth of our personal stories, and that's very much guided the work of this group. So I would like to thank everyone for being with us and look forward very much to continuing this journey with you. Thank you so much.